So welcome to the Not Dead Yet live show. KarenLee is here with me,
Hello there.
and our guest today is Giana.
Hello.
So I'm going to move our little faces out of the way here. First, let me just do a little quick intro. If you're watching live, we appreciate that. If you want to put something in the chat, that would be awesome.
Are you
So,
able to see the chat, Nancy?
not this second, but I think I will be able to at some point. So, we'll see how it goes.
Okay.
And if you're on something in the if you're on YouTube, awesome. Make sure turn the sound off. Not this second, but I think I will be able to.
Okay.
So, we'll see how it goes.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So if you could probably watch in the comments there to see if anybody's commenting too. Okay. If you're
All right, hold on.
right, we're getting it. I think we're live, so we're gonna get this straight.
No worries.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't see the comments here, but
All right. No, it's not a problem.
okay.
And I really just love to draw scenery a lot. Here I am at 10 years old. This is at a Thanksgiving dinner, my family. That's once again my brother and my cousin. And that guy behind me there is really the one who has continued to raise me throughout my life, even though my father figure was absent. So that's kind of a bit who I was prior to the abuse. Now, yeah, this picture hits me.
Me too. I can see you in your eyes.
Yeah. You can see a very happy child, full of just innocence and fun prior to this. My abuse started at the age of 11, and this here was when I was 12, and I was in sixth grade, and this was a slide park trip. So when you're in sixth grade, in elementary, you go to Slide Park from Monday through Friday. You stay over. And that week was the most freeing week I had experienced in a very long time. I did not need to worry about anyone over me while I slept, anyone breaking into my room, no one touching me. I went to bed peaceful. I woke up peacefully. And when I look at this picture, it reminds me because this was the last day. So I knew what I was going back home to. And so in my eyes, I know the sadness that was there that even resonates to me to this day. I knew that when I got back home, the abuse would stop or would start again, all over again.
Giana, would you share with us who was abusing you?
Yes. My stepfather, who was a pastor of a huge church, molested me from the time that I was 11 to about 15 and a half. The grooming started at first as it kind of does. He was showing me favoritism while my other siblings didn't get that chance of the favoritism. So for instance, while everyone else had to go to bed at a certain time, he let me lay in the bed, but then he would get me up out of the bed and allow me to watch TV. He would buy me candy. When my other siblings didn't or couldn't have candy, I was given money to buy clothes, or to buy snacks at school. Or sometimes he would let me stay home from school and skip a day when my other siblings had to go to school. What I also remember about during the grooming process is that he would try to walk in on me, either while I was in the bathroom or in my room. My bedroom did not have a lock, and he didn't knock or announce himself like you would expect one to as a stepfather and your daughter, stepdaughter is in the room. I think that was strategic. I could recall using the restroom, and I know I locked the door, and I would go and start using the restroom, and lo and behold, I would be surprised because now the door is open, and he would go, "Oh, excuse me, sorry, but I've locked the door." So that's when I started to start to think like this might not be okay. This guy, like all my child sensors were kind of going off.
Was
Um,
your mom, did you talk to your mom about it?
yes, I did speak to my mother about it. Prior to them being married, I was in my room sleep, and it was dark. All the lights in the house were turned off, but my bed was under a window, and so the street lights would kind of come in through the blinds. And so I would lay down, and I knew I had that little bit of light. One night, I was startled and woke up because there was a cold hand under my shirt. Once I noticed that, because I was so alarmed, I wasn't around any light switches. I kind of just pushed up out of bed and pushed myself up against the headboard and was trying to adjust my eyes to see what is going on. When I did that, I noticed his hand pulling back away from me. And the way I describe it even to this day is the most creepiest, demonic thing I've seen. He stepped back into the darkest part of my room and waited there to see if I was going to fall back to sleep or if I was concerned enough, like, well, now I'm up. I sat there and stared into the darkness. And as I did that, I heard him creeping out of my room. I heard him creeping down the hallway. I heard him open my mother's bedroom door, and then I heard him quietly close it. So I'm out of my mind. I'm scared. I know what I've just experienced. I've never experienced touching like that before. And I knew that it could only be two people because they went in my mother's room. It was not my mother's hand.
Right.
So the next morning on the way to school, I spoke to her about it. And I said, I woke up, there was someone's hand up my shirt, and they were touching on my breast. And she quickly fired back and said, "Oh, that was me." And I said, "Your hand was up my shirt?" And she paused a moment and she said, "I was just checking to see if you were asleep." And I knew right then and there I was not going to be a priority. I knew right then and there as a child, she would not be on my team. I was not expecting her to save me. The next
She
day,
rehearsed it or something.
I'm sorry.
It sounds like she almost rehearsed it. Oh,
You would think so. You would think so. After I heard him go back into the room, I stayed up all night watching just to see if it would happen again. Maybe she would come. I don't know. I was just hoping someone would come and intervene and that would not happen again. But I stayed up all night until the sun came up,
Oh my God.
just watching the door. I was so tired the next morning, but yes, her response sounded extremely rehearsed. Um, and that to that day, it started something in me. I had then became aware of a darkness in the world that I was not aware of before as a child. I lost a lot of sleep. I remember going into school that day, and the only thing on my mind was the fact that she, in my opinion, covered up what I had brought. My concern was brought to her attention. And I remember just thinking about, wow, when I go home, this is gonna be all over again. And I can expect it the following night.
Mm.
Uh, yeah. Now, the following night, I thought to myself, how could I stop this? Because I said something to my mother. She wasn't receptive. And so in a 11-year-old mind, I thought to line my stuffed animals up against the door and actually sleep with the door closed this time, but line them up so that if someone comes in, I would notice it. I would notice it right away. So that's what I did the next night. Now, the next night came and I was asleep, and I remember waking up to them arguing. They were both in my room, and she had caught him. She said she caught him in my room standing over me, and she turned the light on. When she turned the light on, she said, "What are you doing in her room?" And he didn't have a good explanation. And she said the only thing that she could think of, which was in grabbing reach, was my stuffed animals. And so she picked them up and started tossing him at them. I'm not exactly sure what that would have did,
Yeah.
but she tossed them at him. And then I remember him picking her up and kind of like moving her out of my room. And then he closed the door.
Mm.
So I was like in a sleep fog. And so I woke up the next morning to my room being a mess. My stuffed animals were thrown everywhere. My favorite one, if anyone remembers stuffed animals, we have Popples back
Yeah.
then, and I loved them. I collected them. But my favorite pink one was in the closet. And there's just no way that my favorite pink one should have been in the closet. It should have been actually standing guard at the door with the rest of them. We later found out that she admitted that she had found him in my room over me in the dark, just like I indicated the night before. And she said that she started throwing stuffed animals at him. That is how my stuffed animal got in the closet. Now, we didn't find that out till years later, though, but she did admit that. What she also said, because my question down the road was, well, then if he's a so-called pastor at a church, he worked at this time, he was working at St. Hope Academy with the mayor, Kevin Johnson, and it was almost like a community center for at-risk youth.
Oh.
That is where she met him. He was, I'm not sure what he had going on at the time, but my mother was in a long-term relationship that she was choosing to cheat on for this guy. So I'm trying to understand how I've gotten to this. But she finally came out with the truth about how my toy ended up in the closet. So the abuse continued. It went from the grooming to, I can remember also waking up in the middle of the night, because I used to sleep very hard. I would wake up in the middle of the night, my underwear would be off me.
Mm.
I would go to bed with a shirt, underwear on, or shorts and a shirt on, and I would wake up to them being like rolled up in my blanket or sometimes on the ground under my bed, but they were not on me. And there's no way that I'm taking them off in the middle of the night. I
You
can
think
remember the night.
is it possible he might have drugged you?
I'm not exactly sure. I would say later on in my teens, that is a possibility. This is someone who put me on birth control before he had sex with me, so
Mm.
he is very operated.
Wow.
So that is definitely a possibility. But the abuse continued and it escalated. I remember the first night where he was letting me stay up and watch TV again while everyone else was asleep. Again, the grooming part. And he basically, I was watching the TV, and I remember him getting up and making sure my mom was asleep. And he came back in the living room, and he basically dry humped me until he ejaculated, and that was the beginning.
So sorry that you went through this. This is horrible.
Yeah, I have my background in psychology, and I'm aware of a theory called soul murder. And that is basically where the child is neglected, the empathy, the love, the attention, to the point where it's kind of used as an incentive. So my brother had favoritism from her. She would buy him everything, give him everything. He didn't have to work for anything. I had to work for everything. She was abusive towards me emotionally and physically. She used to beat me with the belt. I've been slapped across the face. And I started to notice that a lot of the physical abuse with her would be in the mornings after I knew her husband was in my room. So that was her way of penalizing me, I guess, for being who I was, a child. So this picture sticks with me. I don't have many pictures during the abuse. Because they break my heart. But also,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. So the next picture that you have would be the abuse has wrapped up, and I've endured it, and I got to stay with my grandmother. But in these pictures here, I'm a different child.
What stopped the abuse?
I actually had a boyfriend at 15 and a half, and he had an inkling. He had a suspicion. He was like, when I come over and visit you, your stepdad is like on us. Like he's almost maybe trying to intimidate him. He didn't like anyone. He tried to isolate me, let me be clear, of friends, of family that would know what he's doing. And it had got to a point where they had actually put me in homeschooling because they were concerned the school may know. And then that also helped with, they would make me raise my half sister and my half brother. I would wake up in the middle of the night with them and make bottles and stuff like that for them. But my boyfriend at the time said, "What is going on? I need you to tell me now." And I took a deep breath and I told him. And I said, "My mom's husband has been molesting and raping me for years. I want it to stop." I wouldn't say, I could say I might have been borderline, possibly thinking about suicide. I needed it to stop.
Yeah.
And that's what I see in the eyes. It's dealing with the aftermath of the abuse. And he told me, "If you don't say anything, I'm going to tell your grandmother." He knew I was very close with my grandmother, who they also made sure to isolate me from. And I believed him that he would. And I told her. And my grandmother, she was a teacher. She taught elementary and junior high. She was a teacher for 40 years and a mandated reporter. And she said, "Giana, we are going to the police. I believe you." And she shared with me one time when she was staying with us a few years earlier, where my mother's husband woke me up for school. And she said that she was sitting on the couch, which allowed a clear view to my room. And she noticed how he woke me up. It wasn't like a normal wake up, come on, let's go to school. She said that he chose to put his hand on my breast and to shake me from there to wake me up. And she kind of knew something was up then. I will give her credit. When she saw that, I also remember her asking me, hey, is anyone touching you? That shouldn't be happening. You need to tell me if that's the case. And I was so petrified. I had already told my mother what was happening, and I was full on denied. I told her no. I lied. I was in fear of more letting down, more disappointment. And she later told my mother that she asked me, and then she asked my mother. My mother also too lied, and then they actually told her to go back home.
So moving on, this I found, when you were graduating from high school, you were already living in your own apartment. Tell us a little bit about that transition from going into your own space.
Yeah, that was, I had to find space. I couldn't stay there. I couldn't really stay with my grandmother, even though I did for a while. I was just too much. I didn't have therapy. I did not know how to quelch the pain. So I got my own place. There I am right there. I was 17. I stayed in homeschool, and I graduated early. I felt that having my own space was a dream. I didn't have to worry about any molesting or fondling or groping. The abuse was extensive.
Had you talked to your mom other than the very first time? Had you talked to her again after more abuse occurred?
Before I left, she was very much aware, because my grandmother actually did take me to the police, like she said. And so therefore that started an investigation. So all adults were pulled in. My mother worked very diligently against me. She made me seem like I was a troubled teen who just wanted to be with her boyfriend, and I'm a liar. But in actuality, she was set up for 4 different interviews with law enforcement that she did not go to. She made me recant with the detective that was handling my case. I had went down there and I did an interview with them for 8 hours. They recorded it. It was multiple people in the room. They believed me. They assigned a detective to my case who came out to the house. This was when I got back to her home. I did stay with my grandmother for a few weeks after I told. My grandmother told me, do not go back. Do not go back. She's not going to change. And I wanted to believe my mom. And what she was saying was for me to come back and help out with the kids. But in actuality, what she was doing was getting me back there so she can start working on me recanting. She hit me with the guilt card. Oh, CPS is going to take away your siblings and you won't see them again. You'll be in foster care like how your dad was. She put the fear of God in me. She knew I loved my siblings. As I said, I used to wake up in the middle of the night and give them bottles and rock them back to sleep. As 14, 15, I shouldn't be having to do that. I wasn't a teen mother. Right. But she worked very diligently against me to the point where
I'm just curious about something. After the first time when you said, when you lined up the stuffed animals and she came in and didn't believe you, did you try talking to her again after that, or did you hold it all in until later?
I talked to her after that, and what she told me was that he told her he was molested as a child, and that is why he repeated it. She said that they both agreed that he would go to counseling. My follow-up question was, well, did he go? She said no. So no accountability. You're not married to this person yet. He's just moved in. He's supposed to be this preacher guy at this huge mega church. He works at a community center with kids. I found it ironic how he had 3 children before he met her, 2 girls and a boy, and he didn't have any custody of the girls.
Oh,
So he just had his son.
that's a hint.
That was very telling for me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then we fast forward and we see just half a year later, you're married.
Yes. So I'm going to be married. I'm engaged there. I'm actually pregnant with my daughter there.
Mhm.
That is in my own apartment again, where I found it to be safe. And right there is my half sister next to me.
Mm.
That would have been my soon to be husband there, and the father of both of my children. And then my half brother is sitting there on his
Back here.
lap.
Yeah.
Yeah. This was a good time there.
You were happy. Yeah.
I feel like I've got away from the abuse in this, and I felt like I was in my own space
Yeah.
here, which, as you can see, brings me lots of joy. I had a 3-bedroom, 2-bath to myself.
Oh.
I tried to have a dog there and it didn't work. So it was just, we bought a snake though. Me and him did buy a snake. I had a ball python that I named Baller. He would escape a lot. But we would find him and put him back. So that is where you see that big smile. I feel like I escaped from something, but little did I know that if you do not deal with that trauma, it does not dissipate. It doesn't go away. It manifests in different ways, health issues, relationship problems. And I did not work on it. I will tell you that while the police was involved, CPS got involved and they instructed my mother to take me to a therapist. I had 1 session. She took me to the therapist 1 time. At the end of the therapy, the session, I was allowed for her to come in. And so it was the 3 of us now talking. And I looked over to the therapist and I said, "Can you explain why this happened to me? Why me?" And she very bluntly said, "Well, he married your mom after only 2 or 3 months of dating her. So we can conclude that he married her because he had access to a child." My mom did not like to hear that, even though that was the brutal truth.
Yeah.
And she never took me back.
Mm.
Instead, she told me that I would go see Pastor Ephraim Williams of St. Paul Baptist Church. And I don't know why you would bring me to another male pastor for therapy, but it really wasn't therapy at all.
Do you think that she was abused at any point?
Funny you say that. I can recall when we were all speaking about it when it came out. It was her, my grandmother, and I. And I don't know if the focus was on me and we were all understood who her husband really was. She said to my grandmother, "Well, don't you remember Bobby molested me and I told you?" And that's my uncle.
Mm.
And so I don't know how true that is. And I would think that that conversation would have happened way before. She said it happened when she was 13 or 14. So I would assume that my grandmother would have taken care of that properly. That's the type of woman she was, if that was true.
Yeah.
But it made me feel like she was kind of trying to compete with my pain.
Yeah. And not accept her own responsibility.
Correct. Of not being a vigilant mother.
Mhm.
Yes, I absolutely believe that.
Didn't
That
even have to be a vigilant mother, just a mother.
just a mother. I can tell you that she has made me one of the best mothers. I get compliments all the time. I did everything she didn't do. And I have always been supportive of my children. I listen to them. I'm the parent that they can tell me anything. Even their friends come and say, "Oh," they call me Mama Lee. um, they'll come to me and talk to me about anything that is going on. I know my children, and I listened to them when they were younger about what they wanted to be when they grew up, and I instructed them on, this is what you need to do. This is the way you should go. And my daughter, 22 years old, just graduated from UC Davis with a sociology degree and legal studies. She'll be in law school soon. And then my son, 19 years old, and he is following after his mother's footsteps, taking psychology, and he's in his second year at Sac State.
Proud mama.
I have poured myself into my children. A lot of people say, "Well, aren't you mad at the church? Aren't you mad that they allowed that?" Because I wasn't the first child that came out of that particular church that had accusations of molestation. I actually was told by my mother that there was another pastor there that was molesting a boy. And ironically, when she told me about it, I remember this particular pastor. And again, it was me, my brother, and then I had a stepbrother. But this pastor had candy all the time. And so he would give some to my brothers. And then I'd go, "Oh, okay, can I have some Starburst?" And I was told no. So it didn't surprise me that even according to my own mother, she said that he had molested a boy. The mother had brought it up to pastor of the church, and they shooed her away, just kind of like how they shooed me away. But I am not the only child that came out of that church. I'm sure there's people aware of the previous pastor that was busted, shall we say. The way that the pastor worked there at St. Paul is when they got busted, he would move them to another church, move them to another church, move them, and then bring them back. So that's exactly what he did in both instances in that case. I do want to talk about the ickiness of the abuse. And the reason I do is because I want to encourage people to have that conversation with their children, even though it's so icky. And we shouldn't have to talk about this, but in the world we live in, I think that we should. But there's numerous resources out there that maybe we can put in the section under this later for parents on how to have that conversation. There's even a prevention plan on one of the websites. There is a 8-step plan on how to create an environment free of the child sexual abuse. And so I want to encourage parents to have those uncomfortable conversations, because when you don't have that conversation, you're leaving them exposed and you're leaving them out there for them to be a potential victim. So I was exploited. No way about that. Disgustingly exploited. And My mom allowed it to happen the whole entire time. Mind you, it's been 20 something years later and she's still with him. I want to talk about specifically when I was standing up for myself and I said no. So the times that I tried to stand up for myself and say no more abuse, the first time he put my hamster in a hot garage
Mm.
and it died. And that was my warning.
Oh my God.
Sick.
The second time, years down the road, I got enough courage to say no again. And I came home the next day and he had my golden retriever by her collar
Mm.
up in the air and he was beating her. And I ran to the backyard and he made sure I knew why this dog was my dog, that he allowed me to adopt, but that was part of the grooming part.
Mm.
He was beating her and I told him, you better stop hitting my dog. Put her down. And he had her up here while he was hitting her and he just let her go. And she dropped to the ground and she was hurt. And I just remember grabbing her and laying down with her for hours. And I realized then that she was part of the abuse with me.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because you're right. When you think of abuse, you just think of the actual victim and the abuser. You don't think about like the manipulation, like with the people that you love and the animals that you love. You don't, and I mean, I'm really I'm surprised, but also happy that you shared that with us because that's something that people should look out for as well.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Anybody that would hurt an animal is going to hurt a child, or anything or anyone that they view as vulnerable or weaker than them.
Yes.
But to use it against Giana,
That's a whole nother level of
yeah,
insane.
Sadisticness.
Yes.
He also would tell me regularly, your mom will never believe you if you tell her. She's
Oh.
going to stay with me. And 20 something years later, she's still there.
Mm.
She's still there. So,
are you concerned with your siblings?
that's one of the things I was going to say. I was absolutely concerned with my siblings. And even though I had got out, I called CPS a number of times to have them checked on. I remember the picture you showed with my half brothers in that picture. I remember watching them one night and he called me into the bathroom and I go, oh, what's going on? You know, I thought like maybe my boyfriend should come in and you know, it's a little boy. And he showed me that he was actually bleeding from his anus.
Mm.
And I got infuriated.
Yeah.
I got infuriated. And that was one of the first calls I made to CPS. I remember telling my history teacher in high school, can you please call someone to check on my siblings? I'm out of there, but very concerned for my half sister and my half brother. So over the years, I've called CPS and I've told them, you guys need to do a welfare check on my siblings, please. This happened or that happened. I know that my brother and I confronted my half sister and we confronted her when she was about 13 years old. And we said, is anyone touching you? Anyone touching you in areas you shouldn't be? And she didn't say yes, but she didn't say no.
Mm.
And I said, okay, well, that shouldn't be happening if it is. And we would really want to know because we want to stop that. And my mom picked her up. And about 10 minutes after she picked her up, I got a phone call from Kelly, my mother. And she said, don't you ever ask her those questions again.
Wow.
So she is now a full-on co-conspirator with her kids. He did tell her at one point, which speaks to what the counselor said. He told her, if I leave, that he would leave her. So his incentive was me to stay there. I still love the Lord. I have nothing against what happened to me. Whatever, it made me stronger. It made me a better parent. But I still am actively in church and everything. But when the church is like this, I can see how people are extremely disenchanted and think it's all corrupt. But I continued to go to my own church for many years, after that. But he molested me inside of that church. It's a stairwell to where they would get baptized, and on the way down, he locked the door and we were heading down the stairs. He stopped and just put his hands in my shorts. And then he pulled it out and he licked his fingers and said, "You taste so good." What he also did in the parking lot, I can remember he would molest me in the car before he would go inside the church. He would like drop my mom and the kids off in the front, and then he would go around and park and make me stay in the car. He would make me wear dresses or skirts, something where he said to have easy access. And I remember a time where he was fondling me and down my pants, and then he was done. I remember he got out and he started walking into the church, and so I got out and I started walking behind him, and you would have thought he won $1 million. He was jovial. There was like a pep in his step. And with the same hand he just got done molesting me with, he's now giving out handshakes to the parishioners there at the church. I remember him seeing his fraternity brother, which is the current pastor of that church now. And I remember that they walked toward each other and did their little fraternity shake and everything like that. But I remember looking around like, he was just touching me with that hand. These people don't know. He used to write sermons and take breaks to molest me. And then on Sunday, he would say the sermon in the pulpit, and I'd be looking around at everyone's face like, y'all are buying this? He's the devil. And the devil knows the Bible, and the devil goes to church too.
Yeah. That had to be just excruciating for you at that time. I'm so sorry it happened.
It's horrible. Horrible. It's still going on right now, is what you're saying?
They're still married. I still have doubts about that happening to my half sister because of their relationship dynamic. For instance, she came over to visit and she was having a problem with her car. And I said, okay, well, I have a mechanic you could work with. He'll go check it out. He's not going to charge you arm and a leg. He's really good. And she got on the phone and called her dad and told him what I said and asked for permission. At the time, she was 20. And I said, oh, okay. So is he going to fix the car, or do you want to run it by my friends? And she said, oh, no, he's going to take care of the car. So there he goes again with the isolation, possessiveness type of thing that he did with me as well. Yeah. He used to go to the sex stores and make me wait in the parking lot, buy stuff in there, and then use it on me later. I was running around with crotchless thongs on.
Oh my God.
Lotion that heated up. All those kind of despicable things that you would expect from a pervert that had free reign.
Yeah. One of the things that we were going to talk about, and you've given some clues, but how to teach parents what to watch for, because there was clearly a big change in you from 11, from 10 to 15. So,
yes.
and you know, obviously that's that's adolescence too, but the look on your face and in your eyes, what was your behavior like? What changed in who you were and how you were in the world? What if you were looking back and saying, these are the clues that people missed?
Yeah. My grades changed. My energy level changed. I became reclusive. I didn't want to hang out with friends. I got to that point because when I would ask to go hang out with friends and try to escape the situation, I would ask my mother's and hoping she would say yes. And then she would tell me to go ask him. And then he would require sexual favors before I left.
Oh my God.
So when you see a drastic change in your child, they seem depressed. They don't seem themselves. They might be dressing different, smiling less, maybe not wanting to hang out as much. I know that I started drinking. And so I had gotten a DUI about a month before I turned 18. Because I didn't seek therapy. I wasn't aware that therapy was the answer. I was starting to try to medicate by, with the things that I thought I had. And so a demeanor, I started dressing more kind of like revealing than I was before. And just the innocence was gone.
Had you
So
told any of your friends?
I did. I told one of my best friends named Gilda. Her and I were friends from elementary to junior high and high school. And I told her what was happening. And a few days later, after I told her, how shall I say this? My mother's husband, fraternity brother, solicited me into asking her if she would join him. And as I'm being asked this, I'm very protective of my friend. And I'm telling my stepdad, no, I'm not going to ask her. Well, he wants to see her. And I was like, I'm not going to ask her anything like that. I'm not going to do it.
Wow.
And about 15 minutes later, that fraternity brother pulled up looking for the answer to that question.
Oh my
That
God.
was the only friend that I had told along the way, other than my boyfriend, who at that time, he's put a stop to it.
But
Now,
it
I
stopped
will
you
tell you,
from your friends then.
well, I just felt like I couldn't, I, I wasn't going to bring her into that.
No.
I just couldn't. And if that meant I was selfless and I took all the abuse, and that's what that meant. I would have never insisted or asked or encouraged any of the things that I was dealing with. I wouldn't have wanted to put that on anybody. But he did solicitate, as we know pedophiles to do. He did try to solicitate my friend for his fraternity brother.
It seems like it was kind of a club of pedophiles that kind of backed each other up and gave each other some kind of credibility. I think that's part, the sad thing that there's many different churches that have had these issues.
Um, Especially in Sacramento, through my case, there was a private investigator that did a lot of investigating. And there's a lot of stuff I will put in my book. Sacramento is probably, I believe, the second worst place of sex trafficking.
Wow.
I can tell you that through the investigation that was done in my case, that was confirmed. Not only was it confirmed, it was confirmed that churches, particularly Black churches, are sex trafficking in a way. Some of the girls are young, they're underage, and they think this is a job and they'll do it. But then there's also wrapped up into that the real innocent victims that was like myself, that are just thrown into that. So I hope through my work, I hope to start a nonprofit. I'm going to be active. I'm not going anywhere. My story won't be going anywhere, and I will be shining the light on things that need to be shined on. And I'm very much aware of the problem in Sacramento, and I'm not going anywhere. I will be shining the light on everybody. Heads up.
You're very brave.
Very,
Thank
very,
you.
very brave. I think we'll have you back on, because I think there's so much more that we can talk about the going forward.
Yes.
Parents have all this information. What do they do? I did put up some slides. I'll redo them here. The Child Helpline, which is a national call center, 1-800-4-A-CHILD, basically is the child abuse hotline. And
Yes.
then there's the RAINN, RAINN, which is the National Sexual Assault Hotline. And then there's a crisis text hotline that, if you have teenagers, probably give it to them, just for any
Absolutely.
kind of crises, any kind of abuse, violence, even peer to peer.
Yes.
These things are helpful. I will put these numbers in the body of the video when it goes up on YouTube, when I go through and edit it, so that people can remember to come back and review these hotline numbers.
I can also share a few of the other websites that I went to. I was very pleased.
Yeah.
That was progress. That was not available when this was happening to me. I think all websites have the tip line, the hotline. They do investigations. Don't forget to contact law enforcement. I am launching my website today.
Oh,
That will also be a place for resources.
congratulations.
Thank you. I'm expecting the book to be out late summer. But I would love for people I challenge parents today to come up with a conversation or a plan that that you're going to say to your children, and give them these resources. They're out there, but have that conversation so that they know how to get themselves out of it. And when they do, they know you will support them.
Yes.
And if there's no parent that you feel comfortable telling this to, then look for someone like your grandmother or your
Yes.
teacher.
I mean, teachers are pretty solid resources, and they have to report, and they will help you stay safe.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Do you
Agreed.
feel like because it's a little easier conversation today than it was 20 years ago?
Absolutely. I believe more people are aware of it. I will tell you, when I went to law enforcement and they sat me down for 8 hours and they recorded my interview and asked all the questions, they knew I was telling the truth. The detective knew I was telling the truth. And matter of fact, she came for my case on my behalf and did a declaration for me. The detective that handled the case, because she said she knew my mother was lying and that she was encouraging me to recant the story. So even law enforcement, I'm sure, have changed the ways on how to deal with this.
I hope so.
I shouldn't have been able to slip through the cracks.
Right. I think we believed 20 or 30 years ago that it was so rare that it wasn't really happening. We just, I think a lot of women, especially in my mother's era, they couldn't even get their own credit card or rent a place or get a job. So
Right.
if they found out that their spouse was abusing their daughter or their son, I think a lot of women felt really trapped.
Helpless.
Correct.
And
Yes.
so they felt like their only choice was to turn a blind eye and hope for the best. They also didn't understand what it does to a child and
Correct.
how it changes their behavior.
We actually, my grandmother and I asked my mother why she stays with him, and her simple answer was because she doesn't want to be lonely.
Right.
So just something like that is motive enough for a parent to stay quiet, and then you encourage secrets and silence
Mhm.
in your own children,
Yeah.
which is despicable. You're just setting them up for the world to abuse them as well, and not giving them the tools and how to fight back. So I've had to learn them.
The grooming process needs to be talked about a lot more, and what people do to get the trust of a child. Because I think everybody envisions sexual assault being um, ripped off the street, beaten,
Yeah,
tortured, and the majority of the time it's inside the home.
Or,
absolutely.
friend. I remember when I was growing up, there was a friend of my dad's who would always say, you are like the prettiest girl of all the girls in, he's saying this to like like a young teenager.
Little girl. Yeah. See,
I was so flattered by that, like, oh, that's so nice of you. What am I supposed to say? But it was a little bit, you knew inside it's also creepy.
Mhm.
yes. Yes, that would be the vibe that I would have gotten. On the resources online now cover grooming as well as cyber grooming. I
Excellent.
thought that was really good to acknowledge that there is a difference, and they operate differently. And then there's different type of cyber groomers.
Yeah.
But my website, I'm going to post a difference in that. I also want to just say that as I said, I'm a benefactor of the California AB 218 law that was signed, and I was able to sue my mother, her husband, and the church. And they settled out of court with me days before the trial because they didn't want any other truth to come out. I just saved it, and I will be putting it in my book.
Excellent. What is your
Truth will be
website?
out. So the website, we just put it up.
That's a big day.
Oh my gosh, it was such a big day. Okay. So the website was okay. So we have it. It's Healing Begins When You Find Your Voice, which I thought was okay, pretty good. And so it would be HBWYFYV@gmail.com.
FYV@gmail. Okay.
Yes.
All right. And I will put that.
Begins when you find your voice.
Okay.
That's if someone wants to email you. What's the website going to be?
That's
That's the website. So you can go on there and they'll have resources, but it will also say like my book is coming soon. Or if the next time I do another episode, that would be posted on there. I'm hoping to post this on here. You guys were giving me this opportunity. I am so grateful for it. You guys just don't know. You guys lit the fire a little hotter for me.
We're happy to light fires all the
yeah,
time.
we love that.
Yes.
No, I thank you for sharing such an incredible story and really, really describe in detail I can picture every instance that you were talking about, and it's just very courageous, and it was so I'm so glad that you're in a much, much better place.
Yes, it took a lot of work and some failed marriages, but I'm here. I'm here, and I'm thankful. I'm just thankful. I know I'm favored and blessed. That did not deter my relationship with God, and He has just for everything I have, and even this opportunity, He has blessed me with. No animus there. It is with the sin that was perpetrated on me.
So just to recap on the website, because that was a Gmail address. So it's HBWYFYV.com.
Let's see here. The website.
It's healingcanva.com.
Healing.
No, the whole thing, healing begins with finding your voice at canva.com.
Okay, so healing begins with finding your voice.
Canva.com.
Canva.com. Is it at canva.com?
So it would be HB@YF with
Your
finding
Y.
in YV.
Yes, for voice. Yes.
At-
Canva.com.
At just Canva.
It's Canva.com.
Yeah.
Okay.
But there's no at. No. Okay. So
So,
yeah. So healing.
depends. That's not what we're doing.
It's healing begins when you find your voice.
When
So
you, not with
Yeah.
finding your voice.
No. Healing begins when you find your voice.
Find your, okay. So there's two Y's.
Canva. Yes.
Okay. All right. So I will put that in the notes on the video so people can find you and support your work. We support your work 100%. Let us know how else we can help. And
Are you on any of the socials like Instagram or Facebook or YouTube or anything like that yet?
I'm on Facebook. I was on Blue Sky. I had 20,000 followers on Blue Sky, but that's a trip. So right now I'm on Facebook, but this week I will be establishing a Instagram, a Threads, a Facebook page, and I think there might be one more. Might be fan base, but I will definitely let you know, and I will include it on that website.
great. And any of your links, you can just email them to me, and I'll copy and plug them right into the body of the notes for this video.
I sure will, because I was extremely impressed by the websites that are developed today. They weren't there before,
No.
and they're very helpful and resourceful.
All right. Well, thank you, Giana, for taking the time and the effort and the bringing your story to us. And as I was listening to you, I was getting chills knowing that there's somebody out there that's going to listen and is going to think about their story and how they might need to pursue some help to deal with what they've experienced.
100%.
Absolutely. And I would also say, if you are being molested or sexually assaulted and you're a child, there's people you can reach out to. As we've indicated, there are hotlines, there's websites, you can speak with the teacher, but the abuse does not have to continue. I want to make that extremely clear. There's help for you, and you don't have to deal with it a day longer.
Yeah, I think that's key, because kids do feel so helpless and vulnerable. They don't know where to turn.
Yes.
And if you have one person not believe you, why would you think anybody else would?
I fell for that. Yeah. So that's what I want to absolutely make clear. And I will tell you, the day that my story came out and it was all on the news and in the newspaper, that was the best night I slept, because I felt, oh, he can't be touching anyone now. He can't be molesting anyone else. But all the nights before that, I was always concerned about a victim, because the average pedophile can have up to 300 victims.
Wow.
So if you want to share your story and you're listening to this, it doesn't have to be on the same subject, but any subject any transformation that you made in your world that changed you and can help others, please go to, where should we have them go first, Nancy?
Not Dead Yet Live
Show.
And you can find us there. This will be on the YouTube channel, which is Not Dead Yet Live.
Show.
That's right. Show on there.
That's show.
Yes, Not Dead Yet Live show. It's hard to not be so wordy.
We're not dead yet.
And while I'm not, I will be fighting.
Yeah, that's it. Yep. As long as we're breathing, we're still fighting.
My last breath. Yes. To my last breath.
Yes. All right, Giana, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Karen.
Thanks always for
you guys.
Your loving support and great questions. And so this will be on the YouTube channel. Please feel free to share it. We will be back tomorrow night, which is Wednesday, with a kind of a makeup show from last week. with a budding filmmaker. So
Oh,
we're
I will
excited
be
about that.
watching.
So
Yes,
we
I
have
will be watching.
our topics will span the globe. You do not have to follow anybody's lead. You can follow your own lead. That's our wish for you, is that your story, your life is what's leading you, and we would love to hear about it.
And what is your little quote of the day that you want to end?
Every day you wake up, you get to be a warning or an example.
Oh, that's so good.
And
You
mine
know,
is always
never neutral.
follow your gut.
And follow your gut. Yes.
That's a good one too.
All right, ladies.
Keep it nice and simple.
Until next time, thank you.
Namaste.
Thank you. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.